Hey everyone, my name is Nigel, and today I kind of just wanted to talk about some Canon lenses that I used to use back when I had my T2i, my T3i, and my 60D. Now these are lenses that are going to be a lot more budget friendly if you're looking for some good lenses for like maybe your 80D or your SL2 or the T7i. These lenses aren't going to be the best as far as like pairing them up with those cameras specifically for autofocus, but they're going to be really sharp lenses and they'll be a much more budget friendly option. And these are the two lenses that I owned for my Canon DSLRs, and they were basically the only two lenses that I owned and really the only two that I needed. The only other one that I used was a Rokinon fisheye that was like an 8mm, but basically it was these two lenses that I used on my T2i, T3i, and 60D to do basically everything that I needed, and I absolutely loved them when I had a Canon DSLR. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is the Sigma 17-50 f2.8 constant aperture lens. This one also features an OS, which is optical stabilization. So it's an image stabilized lens and it's super sharp even at f2.8. A lot of photographers on YouTube back when this came out reviewed this lens and it got a lot of really good reviews. So that's the lens that I use for mostly just like anything and everything. It was f2.8, super sharp at f2.8. Obviously, I used it on older cameras that didn't have the best 1080p, but I would expect that if you put this on a SL2 or an 80D or T7i, you'd get some really nice looking footage out of this. Cool thing about this lens is that since it's pretty old, it can be had for around $200 to $300, typically more around the $200 range if you look on eBay. And this is a lens that gives you basically a 24 to 70-ish kind of focal length, and it gives you an f2.8, which I think is really cool, and it's constant aperture. So at 17mm, you could have it at f2.8, and at 50mm, you could have it at f2.8. So that's really cool, especially for a lens that you can get for really cheap these days. So that's the one that I used on my Canon DSLRs the most, and I just took it everywhere with me. I shot some of my favorite shots with that lens, and I think that if I went back to shooting with Canon, I would probably pick that up, even if it was just as like a backup lens, just because of how good it is. So the next lens was probably my favorite lens that I had for my Canons overall, and that was the Sigma 30mm f1.4. Now this is the older version with like the gold ring around it, not the new art version, which is a lot more expensive. And this gave you like a 50mm equivalent field of view in like full frame terms on your crop sensor Canon camera. So it was a really nice focal length to work with, and it was f1.4, and that could give you some really nice blown out backgrounds. And I use this a lot whenever I was doing like detail shots or shots of people's faces. It just made them look really flattering, and this was great for photography and really good for video. I didn't use any like autofocus when I was shooting video with my Canon, just because this lens is really not that good at autofocus. It's really loud and not very fast, but when it comes to like sharpness, it's actually really sharp even at f1.4. Not the sharpest, but it gives you really good image quality for the price. I think this one again can be had for like $200 to $250 on eBay, which is a really good deal. And I would definitely recommend that if you were looking for like a budget portrait lens for your Canon DSLR. There's a filmmaker on Vimeo who got a lot of recognition for using a Canon T2i and that Sigma 30mm f1.4, and I'm going to leave some of his videos in the links in the description so you can see like the kind of quality that you can get out of that Sigma 30mm with a T2i, which is like a super old camera. But he was able to get some like really good footage out of that, and he made some really awesome short films with just that camera and lens combo. So those were my favorite lenses that I've used with Canon cameras. I'm not going to say that they're going to be great when it comes to like autofocus if you want to use them for a Canon 80D or SL2 or T7i, but as far as like image quality, I think that they're really good, and I think they're still a really good bang for your buck if you're looking for some inexpensive lenses for your Canon camera. Again, they're both by Sigma, and this was before they started like their art series line, but they're still really good lenses that can give you really nice, sharp results. The only other lens that I really owned for my Canon DSLRs was the Nifty 50, but I feel like every YouTuber who has a Canon camera talks about that lens, and it just kind of gets over talked about. It's a great lens, it's just not my favorite. The 30mm f1.4 is definitely a better lens in my opinion overall, just because it gives you a much more usable focal length of about, I think it's 48mm. So anyways, I hope you all enjoyed that video. If you did, it'd be great if you hit the like button, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content. But until next time, I will see you all later. Bye.